Hey there, hi there, ho there, it's Wispipedia. Season of the Chosen has begun. It's off to a pretty great start, honestly. This season feels deeper than most seasons, and I'm liking the pace that it's taken so far. I'm having fun with it, but every new season, an old problem rears its head: the leveling system. Before I get too negative or critical here, I want to point out that I'm having a lot of fun with the new content. The new and reissued weapons are pushing me to get into different activities to chase some roles. I even lost track of time while playing the other day, which I find doesn't happen often in my adult life. That said, the leveling system, i.e. making our number bigger in Destiny 2, is really frustrating to me. There are two issues I personally have with the leveling system. 1. Leveling your character isn't super engaging. 2. Your power level doesn't really seem to matter for a lot of endgame activities. I'm going to go into both of these a bit more, and also make some suggestions of ways I would maybe change it. Note, I'm not a game dev, and don't know the things that they know, so take it with a grain of salt. This is all from a player perspective. First, let's talk about why the leveling system doesn't feel engaging. We've been playing this game for 6 years. I have spent a lot of time playing Destiny myself. I don't regret that time spent, but if you do anything for thousands of hours throughout half a dozen years with slight changes, it will get boring. So every time we have a power cap increase, we hop back into the same playlists and activities, play the same strikes and crucible matches on the same maps, and chase that sweet, sweet power increase. It's frustrating to me that the system hasn't really changed all that much since D2 launched. You also have to complete a number of strikes or matches just to get one powerful drop. These can take a while, and for strikes specifically, you have to do 3 with a specific subclass equipped to get one item that will actually increase your power. Also, your power increases are heavily influenced by RNG. Say you're right near max power, but you can't get that pinnacle to drop a class item. It's frustrating. The player doesn't have agency over the progression, and you're left to just play aimlessly until that specific item drops. We have gotten a little more agency over this than in the past, to be fair, but RNG is still pretty significant for upgrading power. My personal solution would be to make the core playlists feel more rewarding. There have been steps to improve this, with Prime Attunement making it more likely to drop Prime engrams after certain numbers of activity completions, but I think they could lean into this more. Loot is important in a looter-shooter after all. I'd like to see the player have more agency over what can drop. Say we have an engram we could prep with specific items. We do have a version of this in Season of the Chosen with Battlegrounds and Umbral engrams, so it will be interesting to see how that will influence the grind this season. This is being addressed as we do admittedly have more agency over progression. I still just feel unmotivated to chase power, but that could be partially because of the other issue, which is, does power level matter in endgame activities? Grandmaster Nightfalls, Trials, and Iron Banner are the only activities where you really benefit by reaching max power. But even then, Grandmaster Nightfalls scale your level anyway, so you can't really even level up to them. Iron Banner and Trials do take power level into account, but Trials at least isn't really accessible to a large portion of the player base. Even at the height of its popularity at the beginning of the season, it's still only 5 to 6% of the player base actually engaging in Trial. Iron Banner is also, honestly, not really endgame in a sense. Iron Banner has its own issues with no gear refresh, etc., and it isn't an event that everyone is clamoring to do season after season. I can think of one major way to address this problem. Give us a weekly featured raid and dungeon. Set them at max power, not above like Grandmasters, and let the last encounters award adept weapons and potentially ascendant shards. This could refresh all of the existing raids and dungeons and would be great for PvE players who have gotten their fill of the activities at their current level. And maybe even you could do a Grandmaster version of these as well that goes a little bit above. So if you had the featured raid and dungeon set at the hard cap, and then the Grandmaster version set at Pinnacle cap, so they're still accessible for both, it'd be a lot more incentive for players to engage with this content. Otherwise, a Horde-like activity could address this as well. In a Horde mode activity, for anybody that doesn't know, you fight wave after wave after wave of enemies with increasing difficulty, except instead of just increasing the difficulty each time, maybe the power level increases as well. So each wave would increase in power level, and the further you go, the better the gear you get. Maybe you could also have more control over the rewards with specific perks, etc., the further you go into each mode. Maybe for each season, the top power level increases and it becomes more difficult to get to the later waves. This would also require a loot refresh for most seasons, but I'm sure there would be a way around that. Maybe you get a special engram that you construct and modify with the energy from enemies you kill that allows you to influence the drops. It could be an activity strictly for reissued weapons, or even could include world drops. Maybe it could be a new source for different weapons. For example, you could include some of the items that are specific to the Strikes, Gambit, and Crucible playlists this season, but it gives you a way to target specific rules on those weapons. This would address two key issues. One, it would give players a way to target specific drops, and two, give players an aspirational activity where your power level truly does matter. So, why even chase power season after season? It feels like it's just another thing to do to encourage players to get into older playlists. It kind of feels like just your seasonal checklist of things to do. Personally, I'm happy to have stuff to do in the game, but I also feel like weapon roll chases are a bit more substantial and feel better as long as they're targeted than a general power level grind. Personally, I'm hoping we see more answers to this issue next season and beyond, as Bungie devs have already agreed with community members that this is an issue. I'm sure it's already on their radar, but I'm still going to complain about it. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any thoughts on this, please leave it in the comments below. Do the usual YouTube things, like and subscribe, and catch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Wispapedia. And I'll catch you next time.